Finally, after so many years, I mean like 2 years, whatever, same idea with No Time to Die, I finally watched Dune. Definitely my most anticipated movie in 2021 or 2020 or whatever. I watched this movie in IMAX at local AMC theater, and it was, I'll just say, was probably the best movie experience of my entire life. I didn't want my expectations to be like so high where when I watched the movie I'm like, it wasn't that good, you know? Because I know like this movie was so hyped for like everyone in the movie community. We're like, bro, Dune, Denis Villeneuve, it's gonna be crazy, bro. I wanted to make sure I wasn't too hyped for this movie so that it didn't like ruin it for me. So I wanted to just base my expectations off of the book. I was gonna read like part 1 of the book and then come into the movie and be like, yeah, that was pretty good. And so basically I based all my expectations from whatever I read off the book, which I thought was amazing. The book is super well written. There's a lot of in-depth sci-fi things that are so crazy. It would need like another reread to get all the details. But I was very surprised by this movie. My expectations were demolished by how epic this movie was. And it was super worth it to watch in IMAX. That's the way, I mean, the director says that's like the way to watch the movie, and I totally agree. Why would you watch this on HBO Max? What are you even saying? Why would you watch this on HBO Max? If you watch this on HBO Max, you are so stupid and idiot, man. No, I'm just kidding. Like, watch this however way you need, but I'd recommend watching it in theaters because it's a 10 times different experience. This movie has amazing direction, amazing cinematography, amazing editing, amazing music. Oh my gosh. On every level, this is perfectly, masterfully directed. In terms of tone, it felt like Blade Runner 2049 with like a mix of like The Green Knight. This is like the closest thing to The Green Knight. One thing I'll say is like there's a lot resting on Denis' shoulders because Blade Runner 2049 kind of failed at the box office, so this movie kind of had to be good. Basically, the bottom line, this movie had to be more accessible so that it would like make money. This movie was definitely more accessible than Blade Runner 2049 in basically every aspect. And for me, it was much more emotional as well. It was much more in-depth. So Blade Runner 24, it's interesting in its own way. There's a lot of moments in Dune, emotionally and visually, where you're just always in awe. Like, there's so many moments where I'm just sitting there, like, holding my breath because I don't want to make any noise. Sitting in the theater, I'm just like, oh. It sets up Paul's arc as, you know, sort of like becoming a leader and him, like, setting up on his own. Like, he changes throughout the movie, and it's like there's an actual arc to it that I felt like was, like, pretty well executed. But yeah, a lot of people, I just want to say really quick, are saying how this movie doesn't like feel like emotional or something. It's like there's a lot happening like on under the level, like through Timmy's eyes and through their emotions. There's so much happening on like a character level. Like you can see it. I don't really understand people's criticisms of how this movie felt emotionless. I think there was a lot of like visuals that supported like the emotions going through people's or that are going through people. And so that worked really well. And I just want to quickly say, because I forgot to mention it, the acting was like just perfect. Like the casting choice, like the villain, he's horrendous and gross and disgusting and evil, but he's smart and like menacing, and it's crazy. He's a really great villain. Skarsgård did an awesome job, and like Jessica, what's her name? Ferguson. She did such an amazing job with Rebecca, or with Jessica, and that was like Mr. Timmy Chalamet, freaking Thanos was in this movie. They did awesome, and just like it's a great cast. It's worth honestly probably just for the cast as well, even. So, because the book is made up in 3 parts, and so I thought it was just gonna be part 1 of the three parts, but it's actually part 1 and then halfway through part 2. And I was like, ah, dang. So I didn't finish reading. And so I was kind of sad. But either way, that, like, because I didn't know what was going to happen, that, like, added to the story. This sets up Dune Part 2 really nicely. And for that reason, it's because this movie isn't, like, it's, like, definitely not just one cohesive, complete movie. It needs a Part 2 for this whole movie to fit properly. And so like as it stands on its own, it's not like Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings 1 can like stand on its own, but it's like part 1 of a 3-part series. This movie is part 1 of a 2-part movie, but it kind of feels like it can't really stand on its own as a movie. But like that is just what you get from a movie or from a book or from an adaptation adaptation that's just so big as this book. It's like 700 pages. You know, there's a lot of story you need to cover if you want to like fully translate the book to movie, and it totally makes sense. This movie is 2.5 hours, and for me it didn't really feel long at all. Like the pacing seems kind of weird because it's like technically a first act and like the second half, or like the first half of a second act as its own. It still like sets up like a really interesting plot that you want to come back to and finish the movie for. And so as its own, it can't really stand by itself, but it's still a great setup for part 2, which I hope will come. And it's scary because the only way for part 2 to happen is if part 1 does well at the box office or on HBO Max. And that's why I think Denis was like, yo, let's put on HBO Max because it's more likely people are going to watch it. And that makes sense. I think that was a pretty smart move. But definitely watch it in IMAX or watch it in, you know, some kind of theater, because it's definitely worth it in that sense. There was so much going on in this movie, and you just sit there and you just experience and you feel emotions, and you're like, dang, these characters are going through stuff. Like the dynamic between Lady Jessica and Paul is like basically, I feel like, is like the heart and soul of this whole movie, because there's a lot of layers that are developing and a lot of depth to explore into that, and there's new characters that they add that will be important probably for part 2 that I feel like were really nicely. And the thing is about all the characters in the movie, I'll just say really quick, is they all like actually contribute to the movie. It's not like where they just add random characters and you feel like, oh, who's this guy? What is he gonna do? And then they just like kill him off or something. It's like, no, like there's characters who contribute and who actually like add to the story and make you feel invested. And it's really well written because the book is well written. Denis took the liberty of like rearranging some moments in the book, but it's like it made it feel much more paced properly. And like as it sets up like a dynamic and like a character for Paul and stuff, I feel like it works a lot better. I don't think I really have any issues with this movie, besides the fact that I wish like as its own it can stand better. I feel like it definitely can. Like there's a lot of great moments to learn from, watch, and you can definitely watch part 1 and be like, wow, that was an interesting movie, but it definitely needs a part 2 for it to fit perfectly as a whole. And I feel like when part 2, or hopefully if part 2 comes out, part 1 and part 2 are going to be like this big, perfect, amazing like movie, like a amazing 5-hour movie that is going to be watched for like, you know, decades. Like, don't hate the movie because it's not incomplete, because you need to know that it will continue and it will be epic. And so I would just say right now, I recommend this movie. I give it like, I'm honestly feeling like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, this is a good movie. Maybe top 3 of the year. Once again though, thanks for watching this video. Watch Dune. Watch my other movie reviews if you're interested. Like and subscribe. It's pretty epic, and I'm pretty sure it's free. Rubik, come here. It's okay. Even Rubik, this guy right here, he wants you to subscribe. Rubik, look. Ow! Freaking! Oh my gosh! Stop! Don't do it. Rubik, it's okay. It's okay. Stop. No! Go chill, all right? I believe in you. I believe in you, cat. Oh gosh. I wasn't expecting that to happen.